Yeah, in my previous video about rebelliousness, I talked about Tyler the Creator. I have also done a video on being offended. What stands out about Tyler is his playfulness. Since then, I watched a Sadhguru video titled Passion and Playfulness. If you get a chance, check it out. I have shared a link in the description. While I don't think creativity should be violent expression, I understand. It's the low-hanging fruit.
Business is entertainment, and what entertains the customers is the sight of blood.
We are disgusted, but we cannot look away. Tyler has matured to the point where he doesn't rely on the violent depiction to show his passion. Call Me When You Get Lost was a more fun album, but still rebellious in the style of Osho and his Rolls Royces. If you get lost, he can help you find your way. I have decided to post the monologue video by itself so that you can focus on the perspective with a reaction video to come later. Let's get it. And Jesus said, "Let the children fall, theirs is the kingdom of heaven." I am not religious in that sense, but children are always seen as being closer to that which we call as heaven, which is the blissfulness, the pleasantness, just being joyful, being loving. So today I want to talk about sex and children using Michael Jackson as a reference. This is something which has become very sensitive because of the way that society is. I am unequivocally against abuse, first and foremost, but we have to be honest. Society has a tendency to look at the symptom and not at the cause. Abuse is a symptom. Just like if you get a rash on your skin or if you get a headache, it's a symptom. We are abusive within ourselves because we are in a state of mental suffering. We have identified with the mind and our memory. We have identified with the mind, and therefore we suffer our thoughts. For example, sex. Our minds are filled with the perversion of sex.
It's people with a dirty mind that think like that.
Music, movies, magazines, advertisements, the internet, all full of the sexualization. We objectify each other. We are obsessed with pussy print and eggplant print. Somebody calls you a hot mama and you blush. Somebody says you're an 8 and you swoon. Or whatever it is that people call Brad Pitt. A Hank? But for our society, which largely identifies as atheist, we are very moralistic. But morals are the exact reason for ugly thoughts. Thoughts happen, but the direction they take depends on our memory and how we identify with it. Mind is memory and identification. But because we have made our very body parts a sin, guilt comes. Sex enters the mind. Then it can only become perverted. Because mind doesn't know how to subtract, only to add and multiply. I use words like pussy, eggplant, bum, or peaches because even YouTube is part of the moral politics. Sex is a natural process for reproduction. But because we are in a mental illness perversion, we seek pleasure. This perversion is there with anything. It's in the mind, so sex comes in the mind. If it's an acceptable scenario, we entertain it. Because of our conditioning to want to be good people, if it's wrong, we feel guilty and try to remove the thought, using the mind to control the mind. Ridiculous. There are no good or bad thoughts. They are just thoughts. I can think of blowing up the world. It's not real. I can think of hugging the whole world. It's just an illusion in my mind. I can look at videos of naked bodies. I can look at peach prints or camel finger or even the eggplant print. Do I want to see the eggplant? Yes. Does that mean I'm gay? You can think what you want. But more significant is, why do I want to see other people's private parts? What even makes it private if I have the same parts? Why am I so obsessed with it? The beauty of awareness is that once you know the problem, the solution is there. Like, you see a painting is crooked. You know what you need to do to make it straight. Going back to Michael Jackson. In an interview, he pleaded his innocence.
Never invited anyone into my bed ever. Children love me, I love them. They follow me, they want to be with me. It just isn't fair what they put me through, because there wasn't one piece of information that says I did that. And anyway, they turned my room upside down, went through all my books, all my videotapes, all my private things, and they found nothing that can say Michael Jackson did.
He also talks about it in an interview with Steve Harvey about how he missed out on his childhood.
I get to compensate for the loss of, in my childhood that I never got to enjoy. I felt like things it's for everybody. We have handicapped kids with cancer, terminally ill children, leukemia kids, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Dream. We've been doing this for like over 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is not a commentary on him. It's more that his situation is appropriate for this conversation. I'm not here to judge either way. Just to address the issue at hand, using something most of us are familiar with. Some of the comments in the video talk about his body language and tone of voice, but even without that, in most impressions, Michael Jackson has shown a childlike innocence. As he states in the interview, he doesn't see it sexually. But as a society, we see everything sexual. We are more likely to believe that he was sexually attracted to those children because our minds are sexualized. Say what you will about Michael Jackson and his childhood, but he had his choice of sex. He was that big. So, objectification is not something that we associate with him. I mean, the conditioning is there. You know, I think there's a story where he calls them Pelosi's, something like that. You know, those neither can you say that he was consumed by guilt, which leads to obsession in the mind. Before the accusations, it might have been all innocent for him around children. But after the accusations, it would have been hard for him to escape not being conscious of it whenever he was around kids. Unless he had an experience of himself beyond the mental identifications, as creative people tend to do. By all signs, he was neither obsessed with money or other vices like drugs and alcohol. He had issues in wanting to stay young, but who doesn't? Really? He had his insecurities. He wanted to be loved. He would take risks to please his fans. We know the extremes. You know, people called him Wako Jacko because he had a naivety that made him weird. The balcony dangle, the dancing on the car, Russell Crowe or Steve Harvey or Eddie Murphy or Chris Tucker, they all have stories. So, how can we judge such a person according to our own conditioning? Am I saying he was innocent? No. But what the charge is ridiculous. Mostly. Osho was a controversial master. But let me share some passages from his book, From Sex to Superconsciousness. Before I do, it must be understood. This was the 1960s in India. It got him in a lot of trouble and a lot of death threats also. But he saw there was some openness, and most of it came from the West, where he moved to after being pressured out of India. I feel that society is becoming more open again. They question things more instead of believing. Questioning brings realization. So try to understand, okay? In the first passage, he says, the whole world is against sex being taught. Parents feel children should not be allowed to know about it. And teachers agree. The scriptures say the same thing. There is no school or university to teach the subject of sex. Every institute of learning forbids knowledge of it. But in adolescence, a young man finds himself that his whole being, his prana, is filled with an anxiousness about sex. Then the age-old precautions fall and sex wins. And he goes on to say, the first step to free the world from sexuality is to allow children to remain nude as much as possible in the home. As far as it is feasible, it is advisable to allow children, both boys and girls, to play in the nude so that they can become totally acquainted with each other's bodies. Then, tomorrow, there will be no necessity for them to snuggle up to each other in the streets. Then, there will be no need to print nude pictures in books or the internet. Then, they will be familiar with each other's bodies that no kind of perverted attraction will be possible in the future. But the way of the world is just the opposite. The people who have covered and concealed the body have unwittingly created so great an attraction for it that, although it has overtaken our minds, we still haven't felt the full impact. Children should remain nude and should play in the nude for a long time, so no need of madness remains to plague them for the rest of their lives. So he goes on to address concerns. He says, one friend wrote to say he found my topic very embarrassing. He said he asked me to imagine the awkward position of a mother sitting in the audience with her daughter. He asked me to think of a mother attending my lecture, accompanied by her son. Further, he advises me that such things should not be discussed in front of just anybody. I replied that his objectives were groundless and that he must be out of his mind. If a mother is sensible, she will relate her experiences of her sex to her daughter in time before she slips into a netherland of sex, before she loses herself in unknown immature ways. If a father is sensitive in discharging his parental responsibility, he must freely discuss the subject with his son and daughter to warn them against the common pitfalls and to save their lives from possible perversion in the future. But the irony of the situation is that neither the father nor the mother has any deep, conscious experience in the matter. They themselves have not risen above the level of physical sex, and so they fear their children may become entangled at the same level as well. But I ask you, did anybody guide you? You have entangled yourself, and your children will also entangle themselves. Osho goes on to talk about children being innocent and how you should make love around them. The emphasis is on love, making love, not having sex. Making love is sensual. Having sex is consumption, is trying to extract pleasure from one another. Other spiritual leaders and masters have also talked about the innocence of children and the innocence of the mind, and how grown men can free themselves and become innocent of conditioning. Sadhguru talks about the difference between being childlike and childish. To be childlike is a quality. To be childish is a behavior. MJ was childlike and sometimes looked childish. I talked before about how the mind doesn't know how to subtract. That's what makes things like homophobia so ridiculous and funny. The more you try not to think about dicks and bumps, the more you do. Same with pedophobia. I don't know if that is a word, but yeah. The more you try not to think about sex around children, the more you think about it. Because it's on your mind. My theory is that the more we have highlighted pedophilia in society, the more it has gotten into people's minds. It goes back again to the issue of recognizing your thoughts and being aware of their nature. not to fight your thoughts because that's a sign of craziness. Dividing your mind in two, one that is thinking and one is trying to stop the thinking, is a sign of schizophrenia. The answer is love. It's meditation. Become more inclusive. See the highest in everyone and everything. The highest in all is life. Life includes everything. When there is no division in you, there is no friction, then there is no urge to exploit, to abuse, to judge. Life is a fulfillment unto itself. Michael Jackson loved his fans, even if it killed him. He was a loving being, troubled but loving.
Hope that one day that they would be fair and portraying me the way I really, really am. Just a loving, peaceful guy wanting to make wonderful, unprecedented entertainment and songs and music and film for the world.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I want to do. I have no threat. I just want to do that, you know?
Look out for the musical exploration video coming over the weekend where I react to 7 of his songs. I am that I am to the sky. Since you made it this far, I'll add in my 2 cents on the kiss at the Women's Football World Cup in the Spanish team, where the coach kissed a girl in the moment of celebration. I understand the idea of consent, but was there an intention for sex? That's my question.